Let's talk about my favorite D&D setting. It's the best one. It's the best one. When I started playing D&D, I was 10 years old, all right? And when you get the player's handbook, you get the DMG, you get the monster manual, you are invited to picture a world that even without getting the campaign settings, will get you somewhere in the ballpark of Forgotten Realms. Will get you somewhere in the ballpark of Greyhawk, right? Classic high fantasy world, right? Baldur's Gate, Waterdeep, we know them, we love them, right? The campaign setting that consumed our mind more than anything back in the day was Planescape. I had, our friends were playing Dark Sun, there were a couple other settings, people were there, getting there, and then one Christmas showed up under the tree. It was the box set of all the Planescape books that my mom went out and got us. It was, Planes of Law and Planes of Chaos. It was the Factotum's Handbook. Imagine what could bring an 11-year-old more joy than a book about ideological factions in a floating city. That's what the kids want. And so we got all these books. The incredible artwork, beautiful Tony DiTerlizzi, who people will know from Spiderwick Chronicles and other amazing places like that. Is that Tony? Tony, you don't know me, but I think you're the coolest, man. Wait, where are the other Tony DiTerlizzi pictures? Tony! Oh, it's so beautiful. Oh my God. DM screen. Tony DiTerlizzi, man. Tony, I know you don't know who I am, but you're a legend, baby. So for people that are watching for the first time, back up. Planescape is a setting set in the non-material planes of the D&D cosmology. And people will be aware of this because you obviously have, prime-material worlds like the Forgotten Realms, right? And then you have, I think D&D 5th edition has played around with some, Ravenloft, we're kind of getting a little extra planar there. We're messing with it. Feywild, most people have been running around in the Feywild, getting up to all kinds of funny business. This is the most not in the world you can get, right? If you get on a Spelljammer ship and hit the gas as hard as you can until the boat breaks, you'll be here. It's the weirdest setting D&D ever made, and it's the most fun. It's so cool. Myself and my brother, Griff, we went to school for philosophy when we were 14, which if you can imagine anything more annoying than a 14-year-old philosophy major, hats off to you. During that time that I was studying philosophy formally, I was playing all the time in a setting that literally puts you in the physical environs of ideology. And it was so incredible because obviously you have the outer planes that are all aligned ethically and morally. And then in Sigil, and that's how you pronounce it, Sigil like wiggle, it's pronounced differently, okay? If you're in New York, it's not Houston Street, it's Houston Street. Things are pronounced differently contextually, and you say Sigil. But in Sigil, you also have all these philosophies that almost get into, some of them are incredibly nailed down to real world ideologies. You have the fraternity of order, you have the fated, you have the independently, you have the Aethar. So these are philosophies that are really tackling things that real world philosophies and ideologies are tackling in this knockdown, drag out brawl in a city on the inside of a stone donut floating at the top of an infinite spire. When me and my brother, when I was playing with my friends when I was a kid, I was like, yeah, fantasy. I know fantasy. A town and a castle and there's dragons and a monster. It's mythological, you get it. And then I opened Planescape and I said, what the hell is going on? And it expanded my imagination in these ways that were adventures in realms of ideas made matter. And there are civilizations of mortal humans. Imagine being in an afterlife and you come across a town with mortal people in it. It would be like if you were in heaven and then you looked over and there was and this is Mumpville, and it's what are you doing here? And you're we ended up here, we don't know. We didn't arrive here through honest means. And it's so textured and bizarre and weird. It's a totally unique setting, unlike any other, that I feel plays with my favorite elements of philosophy and puts them in a fantastical adventuring context. And Planescape was the first thing that I saw in D&D where I was like, I've never seen this anywhere else. This is a type of world building that is completely unique. And I fell in love with it. My longest PC character when I was a kid, Evia Darkshot, she was a tiefling fighter who was part of the Independent League, slept on a cot in the back room of a stall in the Great Bazaar in Sigil. So, hope Evie is okay. She was really cool. My brother, Griff, ran that. We would literally play as these characters seated. We would be like, I think we were like 11 years old, 11 or 12 years old. And we would take turns DMing for each other one-on-one. He would play at the foot of my bed and I'd be sitting there DMing, and then we'd switch over and I would be at the foot of his bed playing Evia Darkshot. And we would play, like, we were already playing full campaigns all day Saturday and Sunday, and we would play multiple weeknights just until like 3 in the morning, sunrise. The effect Planescape had on me as a storyteller was at a time when I in my real life was studying philosophy, the game made you see the differences between these different philosophies writ out in kind of fantastical metaphor. So it was very cool for someone that wanted to nerd out about philosophy all the time. This was a storytelling vehicle to create adventures based around ideological precepts that I was fascinated by at the time. So yeah, absolutely it impacted me as a storyteller.